Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today, I had the pleasure of speaking with legendary award-winning Canadian pop rock singer-songwriter Andy Kim. In this newest episode, Andy opens up about his name change to Baron Longfellow, what the music business was like in the early days, the moment John Lennon handed him his gold record, meeting Elvis Presley, tribute show to Gordon Lightfoot, and more, as well as his upcoming annual Christmas show. And now, with that being said, hope you enjoy my conversation with Andy. Andy, hello. It's a pleasure to be able to be joined by you today.
Um, I'm so happy we were able to connect and have a few moments to talk about not only my life, but your life.
What do you want to know about my life? I'm curious.
Okay, well, do you have any siblings?
I do.
And where do you stand in the degree of honor? First, second, third, fourth, fifth?
Well, I guess I'm the youngest here, so that's all I can say.
I'm the third of four brothers. So, um, and I often think about the fact that I don't know where it's from, whether it's a Buddhist saying or not, but born around, do not die square. So um, I was born with the knowledge of discovery of everything. I think I was born happy. I've stayed happy. The ups and downs were only kind of there to remind me that I should turn to the left or turn to the right or keep going straight. But they never changed my life. They just added to it. What about
Yeah.
you?
I guess in terms of experiences, I think, yeah, I agree with you. I think that once you sort of get this handle on sort of different various points of your life where you sort of question yourself, am I doing this thing right or am I doing this thing wrong? And then there's this collective, I guess, thought process where like, what am I going to be doing in 5 years' time? What do I want to set out to do? Because that's a question that's very hard to answer when you're still very young and you still got a long ways to go of figuring out that question and what that answer could be. But with you, you've had an illustrious career, may I say, with the singles that you've had that were hits back in those days and still are popular to this day as well. Um, what was it like sort of coming up in the business back in, I guess, those early days where music was so different to from now, from then to now what it is?
Well, you know what? I've always, well, first of all, um, I've never looked back. I've always been in the present. And if there was sorrow the day before or mistakes the day before, they never changed how I saw my life. I learned the lesson from yesterday, but it didn't own me. So I went to New York City basically as a dream, because I'm a dreamer at heart. I didn't have any schooling. All I knew was that I wanted to be part of what WABC in New York played, because it was my transistor radio that changed my world. I grew up in the tenements of Montreal, the third of four brothers. And everybody around the tenements, we played in the alleyway. We didn't have anything in school like any kind of sports or anything. But listening to that transistor radio was the first time that I was able to dream about something that I did not know existed. Because where I grew up, your destiny was already fixed, was already told to you. But I saw and felt something different. So I just believed in this dream that nobody in my family understood. My mom and dad did not want me to go to New York at an early age, but it didn't matter. It was what I was propelled to do, one day at a time, one moment at a time. Try to be as honest and just as you can be. But I didn't know that I had the talent. All I know is that I dreamt about the talent. But somewhere, somehow, I did have the talent. But there are so many talented people around. You've got to know that they never get the opportunity. I got an opportunity. And even though some worked and some didn't, I was living my one and only life, knowing there was no sequel.
For sure. And, with everything that you've already received over your lifetime and over your career, as they would say, I look at your whole resume, and I look at up and down the list of things that you've been able to accomplish, with, hit singles, Sugar Sugar, co-writing that for the Archies. But you've also done some work in terms of co-writing some handful of songs for the Monkees album Changes. You've done a lot in terms of, doing those via rail sort of videos, in terms of just busking it out with friends of yours, and I like to see that part of your life, where like it's sort of this, it's not only the Andy Kim who's releasing music all the time necessarily. It's sort of this fun, happy-go-lucky sort of Andy Kim that likes to have fun with his friends as well. It's not only about, the hits and the singles that you release, and people to know you by that, but how does it feel to know that people feel so beloved by your music and everything you've done in the business?
It's kind of hard for me to comprehend, really, because I'm just living my moments, my heartbeats, not trying to impress anyone but myself, I guess. The songs that you write, I never think, oh, well, this is going to be this and that's going to be that, and I've given my heart to this. No, I come at it from just a very simple way. God has blessed me by sending an angel down to make sure that I live the kind of life that I dreamt about. And the kind of life that I dreamt about has turned into this wonderful place that I can gather musicians much more talented than me to not only entertain an audience, but to give of themselves so that we could help a community. We do that in Toronto. We do it in Montreal. We do it in Calgary. But the important thing is that we're doing it for a reason. I get melancholy at Christmas time. And so I hide behind all the musicians and all the music that's going on, and it just changes my world about it. So I try not to self-analyze. I just am at this moment in time. Your angel and my angel have decided for us to speak. And to me, that's the gift of life.
For sure. And, if you don't mind me asking, because you're just talking about sort of when you sort of enjoy sort of being behind the scenes of just watching those performers perform, instead of yourself being sort of in the spotlight. And I'm not saying that you don't enjoy the spotlight, you do enjoy the spotlight, but when you have moments where you want to see other people shine in front of you, and to watch that as a person and a fan sort of point of view, that also makes you have the thrill of the moment and the thrill of the life that you've already had in the business. That okay, that I'm okay with having taking a back seat here and enjoying it from a fan's perspective, rather than me performing all the time and people seeing me perform all my hits on stage every night and stuff like that. um I guess the question I would probably ask you would probably be like, you know growing up, I guess, in the business, you sort of went through this whole phase where you weren't sure about the name change from Andy Kim to Baron Longfellow. And I've heard the story go around about sort of it came from when a manager asked you, since that you didn't have a manager at that time, that he was interested in managing you, and he had already three male artists that he already had managed, and one of them was Tom Woodward, who changed his name to Tom Jones, and then there was the other one was Jerry Dorsey, changed his name to Engelbert Humperdinck, and then Raymond Sullivan, who changed his name, who babysat his kids, became Gilbert O'Sullivan. What was so poignant about sort of that thought process of changing the name to Baron Longfellow, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, it was a kind of a difficult decision to make for me, because all those artists that he managed didn't have any hits before. They were just performers or entertainers at clubs and stuff. But he had a vision. He thought that at 6'2", with dark hair, I did not look like an Andy Kim. I looked like a Baron Longfellow. We were playing pool at the time when he came up with that thought, and I didn't grasp it. I figured that look, one of the mottos of growing up in the Brill Building is that you're only as good as your 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So Sugar Sugar was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. How do we ever get this way? Baby, I love you. So you have a shelf life. And I think he came in at a moment when my shelf life was kind of getting dusty, and I've always believed it was the music. It wasn't necessarily the name that people caught on to. But he was so successful in what he did, and he had this big, huge plan for me. Plus, he had a falling out with Engelbert Humperdinck, and he thought that I would be the guy to, dark hair, tall, romantic, and all of that. So I went with it. But the interesting thing is that he passed away before he could implement his plan. He was very powerful. And I know that his power with radio and with putting together shows and stuff, that it would have been a different outcome. But I decided to just kind of put the record out on my own. And every time they played a Baron Longfellow record, they said, well, that's really Andy Kim. So that kind of erased the magic of it all. I'm not sad I did it. I'm just I learned from it. I learned that it's the music that counts, and that Andy Kim was really a stamp that I owned. And so look, I've had my ups and downs in my life, and I've always felt very, very lucky to be able to do the things that I want to do and write the songs I want to write. And every now and then you get lucky big time. And when it's not lucky big time, it's okay.
Of course. And if you don't mind me asking as well, because I know that, being an artist comes with inspiration, sort of musically speaking. So do you remember sort of like the first set of records that you've ever purchased in your lifetime? Do you remember those?
Yeah. I don't know how old I was, but I had my brothers purchase me some Buddy Holly tunes. And because I just loved, I would play Ray Vaughan on my brother's 45 turntable. I don't know. I think in total it had to be hundreds of times, but I could not listen to it once. And they would throw me out of the room because they wanted the record player to play what they wanted to hear. But Ray Vaughan was just, I can't explain it. I really can't explain my life, to be honest with you. I just living the moment, living the ability to understand that I have a certain amount of heartbeats and what am I doing with them? And so there was, my parents had my kid brother has that radio. It's a tube radio. And if you lifted the top, you could play 78s. And so they played big band, they played Sinatra, they played Tony Bennett. So they were record lovers as well. And so that music surrounded us, even though we didn't have a luxurious home or anything like that. But there was love in the family. There was love in the community. I didn't know that we lived in the tenements until I started making money, and then I realized, oh yeah, I see. That's how I grew up, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Am I answering your question, or am I?
No, honestly, honestly, whatever you're answering with, I'm perfectly fine with it because that's what I like. That's what I love when a guest can be so open and honest about their life and open and honest about different points of their life. And hearing that just makes me smile because for myself, I am a record collector myself as well. I bought my first record player from a local store here. And I also purchased I think recently I just went record shopping again. And I came across Guy Lombardo's records.
Oh wow.
And I was like, I've heard of him before because I remember watching the New Year's Rockin' Eve, Dick Clark's Rockin' Eve, and they would play Guy Lombardo's version of Old Lang Syne every year. And it sort of stuck with me. And I said his music is interesting. Let me take a listen to his other tracks, the tracks that people don't know about, because people just know him from Old Lang Syne every year. That's how they know his music. But I want to take a backseat and say and think about what other songs does he have that nobody knows about that is interesting. So I purchased the record and now I'm listening to it and it's so beautiful, to be honest. The instrumental parts of his music are just so captivating. But speaking of records, I want to talk about as well, you had a moment with John Lennon because he handed you your first gold CD. What was that like? Just meeting John Lennon and having that moment together, and a significant moment, may I say?
Well, life is full of surprises, and it's you can be surprised and be happy. You can be surprised and be sad and be regretful and all that kind of stuff. So my first gold record was Baby, I Love You, and so I really kind of held on to that. And then subsequently other gold records happened. But what happened with Rock Me Gently, I had moved from New York City to Los Angeles. And I wrote this song one morning and I decided that I wanted to record it. And I didn't know anybody. So I called a buddy of mine in New York City and he said, well, call the Musicians Union. So I called the Musicians Union. I still remember it was a Friday night and it was raining and we had a 3-hour block from 8 to 11 p.m. And 5 strangers showed up and helped me make this record. So I'm the writer, the artist, the producer, and eventually the record company. And so I put it out on my own because nobody wanted to sign me at the time, because I had already had my another 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And it went to #1, Billboard, Cashbox, all the charts. And I am with the chairman of the board of EMI in his office, talking about going to do Top of the Pops in the UK. And the door opens, and I look up, and there is John Lennon, and he's unwrapping something. I have no idea what it was. And it's my gold record that was supposed to be brought to the chairman of the board to eventually give to me. And he looks at it and he says, "Andy Kim, great record, congratulations." And I am tongue-tied. I'm frozen. And he happened to be in the building because he was promoting Whatever Gets You Through the Night with Elton John. And so I have this gold record in my hand. You know, there were no cell phones or pictures to be taken at that time. It was just, I was just dumbfounded. And the CEO just walked me to the door. And it was like, oh my God, how can I tell people that I met Elton John? Are they gonna like know and all of this? And by the grace of all graces, the next day he's on the #1 radio station in Los Angeles promoting Whatever Gets You Through the Night. And he was ubiquitous. You know, he was not afraid to go on a radio station and talk about a record. And they gave him the top 10 to count down. And he counted them down. And when he got to #1, he said, "Oh, yeah, I met Andy Kim yesterday." To me, that was the world. It was the world. And then when he recorded in LA, when he had split up with Yoko, and it was Spector and him and 1,000 other musicians in the studio, I was allowed to be in the back couch just watching it all happen. How did I get there? I have no idea. I have no idea why he came through the door at that moment in time. But I think there's a bigger picture, and that if you do believe in God's angels, and if you do believe in honesty and trust and taking care of your neighbor and helping people, that these magical things happen. It's just like my Christmas show. I thought about it, and I started calling people, and people said, yes. That was the first year. And now here I am 19 years later, still calling people, still doing it on my own. It's almost like I don't want someone calling on my behalf. This is a personal call.
For sure. And I mean, it's so wild to think that how one sort of dream sparks a whole reality of living in the spotlight, and sort of and speaking of like the early days of sort of when you met John Lennon and he handed you that gold record, and you were talking about angels, and you were sort of dumbfounded and sort of, you know, why did he walk through that door in order to give me that gold record? How did that happen? And my thought of that would probably be, you know, in life in general, I guess people walk through the door for a reason, and they're there to give you an opportunity, and they're there to sort of validate that this is what you're meant to do. This is exactly what you're meant to do for a living. You can do it. You can make it, one step at a time, even if it means you sort of have that one record and then you sort of fall off the face of the earth, but you sort of pick yourself back up. And
Yeah.
then you find yourself, in a spot where you were destined to be all along. And I guess that comes with time. It comes with growth. It comes with learning and developing, and being around people that have already been in the business for a long time, and to learn from them and to pick their brains about, how do you be successful in sort of this area or that area. But I also want to talk about, I'm kind of jealous of this because I don't know how to really describe this, but you met Elvis Presley. Um, what was that like? Because that's very rare to find people and to speak with people who have met Elvis personally. So talk to me about that because I'm curious.
Well, it happened in Houston, Texas. He was playing in Houston, Texas, and I happened to be there. And so you're in the audience. There are some people that are allowed to go by and shake Elvis's hands. There was no conversation. It was just a very quick moment. And I was in awe. I'll be honest with you. I sat there throughout the whole concert wondering, am I really seeing Elvis? Is this really Elvis? It was like an out-of-body experience. I could not really believe that I was actually there and he was on stage. It seemed surreal to me. And meeting him was also surreal. It was like so quick, and I don't know how to explain it. It's just a matter of I don't know. I just thought to myself, how could a kid that grew up in a tenement, who's got, some hit records, but I'm not icon. I'm not like, oh my God, 15,000 people come and see you. 100,000 people want to see you. I'm immortal, around an immortal. And it's almost like it was a dream, and you wake up and you find yourself, in your bed wondering, oh my God, it felt so real. I mean, it's the same thing with John Lennon, to be honest with you. No matter what, I am still basically that kid that grew up in a tenements who had a dream that I fulfilled in increments. But I'm in awe of so many other people that I've met that I can't believe. To be honest with you, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe that I'm doing my 19th annual Andy Kim Christmas event. I can't believe the fact that I can call artists that are world renowned and they say yes. I can't quite honestly get myself to that point. I'm still that kid dreaming about, oh, wow, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do that.
For sure.
Yeah.
And as we're wrapping up here, I want to quickly touch on sort of, you're just mentioning the Andy Kim Christmas show, which is taking place in Massey Hall on December 6th. And it's the 19th annual Andy Kim Christmas show. Talk to me about that for a few seconds here, and then I want to get to as well as the classic Lightfoot tribute to Gordon Lightfoot event as well, because I know that's meaningful to you as well, because you are a special guest there, and performing there as well. So talk to me about the Christmas show, and then let's talk about the Classic Lightfoot event.
Well, very briefly, it's an event that has a myriad of artists. I usually have 10 different artists, maybe 8 different artists who come and perform and give up their time. In the past, I've had the Bare Naked Ladies and Alex Lifeson and Nelly Furtado, and the list goes on and on and on and on, and Sam Roberts Band, and it's so many iconic people. Ron Sexsmith, who's been with me for every year except 1 year. So if I'm lucky, I get a chance to do 2 songs or 3 songs, but it's really kind of a cavalcade of phenomenal artists. So you're not just seeing me, but you're seeing people that you listen to on the radio, people that have had incredible careers, and it's all for charity. Nobody gets paid. I don't get paid. None of the artists get paid. I pay the bills, and I know we're running out of time. Regarding Gordon, I don't belong there, to be honest with you. Gordon should not have any kind of tribute except his music and his life. We can talk about it. I'm honored to be a part of it. I'm not going to do any of those songs justice, but I'll be there with Dan Hill, doing our best. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I mean, I remember when I was working at the I believe it was at the Canadian National Exhibition, and that was the last moment that we saw Gordon Lightfoot perform on the CNE stage. I remember that moment very vividly. And it was just a couple of years ago where he stepped foot on the stage, and the crowd roared, and sort of this whole sort of cascade of fans sort of just in awe of him, and just showing their gratitude, even with the age that he was at, and he still kept going. I even remember the moment where he had the George Strombo, the House of Strombo event, and he was featured with John Prine in it, because John Prine was there at the moment.
Yeah.
And John Prine and Gordon Lightfoot sort of both wrote songs together, and they were just sort of friends, and they were like that ever since, and forever will. And God rest Gordon's soul, because he's a musical genius, but he's also a musical icon that will never be forgotten. And it's been a pleasure to be able to speak with you and to explore sort of the career that you've had up to this point, and I'm happy that we were able to explore the music as well, because I know that's meaningful to you, but also the Christmas show and the Gordon Lightfoot event. But thank you again for speaking with me.
Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
I mean, well, I hope you've enjoyed my conversation with award-winning Canadian pop rock singer-songwriter Andy Kim. If you want to find out more about Andy's music and events, go to andykimmusic.com. You can also find him on Facebook and on Twitter to know more about any upcoming events or any music or stuff like that. To help support my show, please feel free to share with family, friends, or on social media. I've been your host, Jigme Kelsang. Thanks for tuning into the show.